My background is I've been involved in EMS since 1986. Went to paramedic school in Sioux City and worked on the ground ambulance in Sioux City till actually about 2003, and flew with Mercy Air Care for a period of time, and then came to work with LifeNet for about the last 4 years. Training that we have is I went through 2 years of school, went from no experience to paramedic level, and then worked street rigs and then went into flight. Volunteers it's an important part of this industry. We need the volunteers, and they package the patient, they get the patient ready for us, and we can't do without the volunteers. We just take it to the next level, so we're kind of the go-between between the volunteer level and till you get them to the hospital for definitive care. Things that we do in this helicopter: we do the things that a hospital would do within the first half hour of arriving to a hospital, excluding surgery and also excluding x-ray. We carry the same medications that an ER would carry. We go ahead and get a lot of things started. We kind of take it from the step of, if it's an inter-facility hospital transport, we go ahead and pick up for where they left off and do things in flight until we can drop them off at the next hospital. Going to a scene, some of the things that we do there is we get the patient that was just injured. There's a lot of things that you find that has not been done as far as the definitive care part. For instance, sometimes we place IVs, sometimes we turn around and secure airways and that type of thing. Rural squads are great about getting them backboarded and taking care of that patient until we can turn around and get on scene. The difference between that and going into a hospital is a lot of times the hospitals they've had the labs drawn, they went and had a more definitive diagnosis, I guess if you want to say, and then they started the care, and then we just continue it on during flight. The reason people need a helicopter versus ground transport, that you start getting into the rural areas where you have 2 hours, 4 hours going into a major trauma center, going into a large hospital. Taking that patient by ground, eats up time, and a lot of patients just don't have that time. And the second thing is that bouncing them down the road, just about every ambulance that I've ever ridden in rides, pretty rough. So bouncing that patient down the road with a fractured leg or some of them, instances that it's just rough on that patient, and it can actually, the patient will deteriorate just from the sheer pain that they're having and or transportation. We like to refer it to the golden hour for those trauma patients. What also plays into that golden hour is the time that extrication may be involved. A lot of patients are entrapped, and it takes quite a while to get them out. Second part of it is the accident found in time, that let's say the accident happened 2 hours prior to anyone finding them, 2 o'clock in the morning, for instance. So a lot of the patients are behind that golden hour at the very start. And air medical transport helps bridge that gap of going, okay, we've got an hour in the injury, or post-hour from injury, and now we've got 2 hours to the trauma unit, so now you've eaten up 3 where we may be able to do it in 40 minutes or less. The reason I picked this career is I really didn't know what I was going to go into. I kind of went into the first EMT class and thought, if I like it, fine. If I don't, at least I'm learning some medical training that I can use toward, with family members and that type of thing. Got involved in EMS and really loved it, and just kind of progressed into the paramedic level and then progressed into flight from there. And the reason that I picked flight was a reason of, you work on the street for a period of time, and you know that flight is kind of the top of the list. So it's something that not everybody does, not everybody likes to do, but it's something that I thought, I want to try it. Let's see what it's like. The classes that people can take in school to try to get into this field, one is chemistry. You have to know, how the chemistry works. You have to know how the workings of the body, anatomy and physiology, obviously, for that same reason. Math. We do a lot of medication drips. We do a lot of conversions from pounds to kilograms, working in micrograms, grams, and this type of thing. So math is probably one of the most important one. And just overall, keep yourself healthy, because this can be pretty stressful, strenuous job, and also it wears on the body quite frequently. We're like one big family. We work with a lot of different people. We're confined in a small helicopter. We turn around and work 24-hour shifts. These people are the greatest people that you've ever seen. And you build that camaraderie, whether it's on a street ambulance, whether it's in an air medical helicopter. And you see a lot of friendships. You see a lot of closer than friendships as a family. This is my family. We spend a lot of time away from our normal families, so you just kind of develop a second family aspect. Teamwork is very important. One thing that you have to be is you have to be trustworthy. You have to turn around and you have to be honest, because we're dealing with a lot of different things. We work off a lot of protocols, so the things that we do, you have to turn around and be able to do it honestly, and if you make a mistake, admit that mistake, learn from it, and then move on. There's some days where we'll go 32 hours, 35 hours with no sleep. This helicopter vibrates, and all helicopters vibrate a tremendous amount, so it wears on, your body. You have to be physically fit. That's just all there is. Lifting weights, getting sleep, doing a lot of things that most of the average people may not do for their jobs helps keep you in this profession longer. Decision making is a critical part of this job. Is your patients never wait for you to make a decision. Your patients change faster than a lot of times you can make that decision, so you have to be on top of that. You have to turn around, and when you make that decision, make sure it's the right one. Now you start adding in 20 hours of no sleep on that decision making, and sometimes it can get pretty tough. But you have to have a clear head. You have to put everything else behind you and concentrate on the task at hand. But that's one thing that I found out is patients do not change by what you want them to. They kind of have their own mind when they're sick, injured, and that type of thing. So you're usually on top of what they do, and you never can wait until see what they're going to do, or you're just behind. Usually part of the responsibility after the call is that we have charts to do. These are legal documents, and they can be taken into court at any time, so you have to make sure that they're accurate. You have to make sure that everything is spelled correctly. You have to make sure that everything that you did it within your protocols, and then you have to make sure that you put in a well enough chart, I guess, as far as spelling, legibility, that ultimately you get paid for it, because that's what keeps us in business. Every chart is usually critiqued on 3 different levels, from medical directors to possibly attorneys, looking and seeing if they can find something in the chart, depending on what attorney is on what side. We turn around and we have continuing education classes all year long, every year that we work. We are required by our employer to be proficient in every skill that we have. We run all over the Midwest here for different continuing ed classes just to maintain that proficiency. You don't want to get into a situation where you need to do something for their patient and you're not good at it. That's a lose situation for both of you. And ultimately, again, our patients. That's our prime concern. And a lot of things as far as pay range, what transpires in this industry is that depending on where you work, you can go out to Las Vegas and you can make some pretty good money. But again, the cost of living is higher out in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, that type of thing. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the environment that you're working at. Usually you can figure probably 30, 50,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And again, depending on your overtime, depending on everything else. But most generally on the bigger cities, they pay more. But again, they also have higher flight volume, and cost of living is higher also. My family understands my profession. A lot of times they don't understand exactly what we do as far as what we see. You can watch TV and see things on there, but it's not the same as actually dealing with it. My family understands that on Christmas we're not going to be there because we run 24/7 and 365 days a year, so you give up your family time with Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, sporting events, parent-teacher conferences, and everything else. But they understand this is something that I want to do. They understand this is something that I like, and that's important to them. So, yeah, they understand. But I think sometimes that you turn around and you see that Okay, I can tell about it, but until you're involved with it, it kind of adds a different light. The importance for rural healthcare to have the service is the closest trauma centers that we have are found in Sioux Falls, Kearney, Lincoln, Omaha, and Sioux City. So these are the bigger cities. You get a lot of people and you get a lot of accidents that happen out in the rural areas. They're taken to their local hospitals, which is fine for initial care. But the problem lies is that they need a trauma center, and to get them there by ground just eats up so much time that we can kind of go across country and get people to that trauma center where they can actually get the care that they need a lot faster. Probably the thing, you start getting into calls that you think more about, and a lot of these are the high school kids that driving too fast. Some of them have alcohol on board, not wearing a seatbelt. They turn around and lose control, get in an accident, they're ejected, and they're killed. It's something that can be prevented, and yet we just keep seeing it happen over and over as much as we keep talking. Every one of us that has kids, they get the same lecture. It's not a case that we just make things up. I wish every kid out there could see what we see. In all honesty, I never wore my seatbelt until getting in this profession, and once you get in this profession, now I'm always pulling it tighter. So seatbelts do save lives. Race car drivers, they wear seatbelts for a reason. So, you know, what I would say to all the kids out there is wear your seatbelts, watch your speed, don't drink and drive, and the biggest thing is drive safely. When you meet us, you're having the worst day of your life. I think I like it all. I like the people that I work with. I like the atmosphere that we work. I like the people that we meet. We do have people come up and say, you've flown me and I'm doing fine. It's not all glamorous. I've never been asked to play Frisbee in the park after saving someone's life like on TV. But I think I like it all. It's just part of a unique environment. And I think when you talk to most of the people that's involved in this career, everyone will tell you the same thing is when we fly, we like it, we have to think, we like to be put under that pressure, and we like to turn around and in our own minds that we are helping someone.